For privacy, their names are not widely public, but their presence is felt in the family's story. School drop-offs, weekend sports, and family trips paint a picture of everyday suburban life. Beyond family, Stacy has a circle of close friends. They remember her as the one who texted to check in after a tough day or who arranged group dinners when life grew hectic. She carried herself with quiet strength, often masking her own worries with humor. On the investigative side, key figures will soon step into. Detective Alan Monroe is among the first to assess the scene. Experienced, methodical, and cautious with words, he has worked homicide cases before, but something about this one unsettles him. His partner, Detective Laura Grant, is more direct. She asks blunt questions and notices details that others overlook. Together, they will peel back layers of a story that grows stranger by the day. Early in the process, other names appear. Neighbors, offering observations about what they heard or saw that day. Some mention arguments from the house weeks earlier, unconfirmed. Others describe nothing unusual at all. Conflicting accounts that only add to the puzzle. Friends of the family also enter the picture. A longtime confidant of Stacy recalls late-night conversations about stress and uncertainty in her marriage. Another insists Stacy never gave any hint of serious problems. These contradictions become threads the investigators cannot ignore. Each character adds weight to the unfolding narrative. Each memory of Stacy sharpens her portrait: caring mother, loyal friend, tireless volunteer. Each conflicting account of her marriage deepens the shadows, and behind it all, a sense that her death may not be what it first appeared. The story until now has been one of ordinary life: school runs, family dinners, community ties. But soon, those familiar rhythms will give way to something darker. Something hidden behind closed doors is about to emerge, and the discovery will change everything. And September 28, 2015, late afternoon drifts into evening. The light outside fades into a soft gold, but inside one Denver home, shadows stretch across the floor. The call comes in to emergency dispatch. A voice on the line, hurried, uneven. 911 audio, a woman is unresponsive. No pulse, no movement. The operator keeps the caller steady, instructing CPR until help arrives. Minutes later, the stillness of the neighborhood is broken by flashing lights. Sss. Ambulance sirens swelling. Then, cutting off, an emergency vehicle halts at the curb, paramedics stepping quickly into motion. Their equipment rattles as they move up the walkway, the air heavy with urgency. Inside, the scene is quiet, too quiet. Paramedics kneel on the carpet beside Stacy Feldman's body. Gloves snap into place. The faint chemical smell of antiseptic wipes mixes with the lingering aroma of coffee in the kitchen. For several tense minutes, the rhythm of chest compressions fills the room, joined by clipped instructions and the hiss of an oxygen mask. But nothing changes. The monitors stay full. Life refuses to return. Police officers arrive soon after, their radios crackling as they step inside. B-roll. Police tape being unrolled, the living room looks ordinary at first glance. Framed family photos on the wall, a sofa angled toward the television, toys stacked in a basket nearby. Yet the details do not sit right. Stacy's body is positioned in a way that feels too composed. No clutter, no overturned objects. Red flag for a woman said to have collapsed suddenly. The absence of disturbance strikes detectives as unusual. Detective Alan Monroe makes quiet notes, his eyes moving across the space. He crouches, looking not only at the victim but at the surroundings, the placement of a cushion, the angle of a rug. His partner, Detective Laura Grant, checks for signs of forced entry. Doors locked, windows intact. No sign anyone broke in. Red flag: if harm came to Stacy, it came from someone who belonged here, or from within. Neighbors gather outside, voices low, faces pale in the glow of street lamps. Some recall seeing nothing unusual that day. Others whisper about tension between Stacy and her husband in recent weeks, unconfirmed. Conflicting accounts float in the night air, carried from porch to porch. Officers record names, contact information, every detail that could matter later. Inside, the atmosphere is heavy, the air thick with unease. Detectives ask Robert, Stacy's husband, to recount what happened. His answers are brief, his tone subdued. He explains that he discovered her and made the call. The officers jot it all down, their pens scratching quickly across notepads. His account will be revisited, dissected, and compared against physical evidence in the hours to come. Back in the living room, the first photographs are taken. The harsh flash from the camera cuts through the dim light, capturing angles, details, impressions. A crime scene technician moves carefully, gloved hands brushing over surfaces, collecting fibers, checking for fingerprints. The faint click of evidence bags being sealed punctuates the silence. The home, once ordinary, now carries the weight of unanswered questions. Why does the scene feel staged? Why are there so few signs of struggle? And why do the accounts of what happened begin to shift before the night is over? Red flag as the body is carefully removed from the house. Neighbors avert their eyes. Cut to B-roll. Stretcher being wheeled. The sound of the gurney wheels against the pavement echoes louder than it should. For the family, shock sets in. For investigators, the work is only beginning. What started as a frantic 911 call is now something else entirely. The first layers of this mystery have been revealed, and with them, the sense that beneath the quiet surface of suburban life lies a story far more complex. The investigation is about to dig deeper. September 28, 2015. The next 48 hours turn into a methodical push of procedure and pressure. Detectives obtain search warrants by the morning, forensic technicians move through the house like surgeons, and the coroner schedules an autopsy for the following day. Keyboard typing, every surface is photographed, every item is cataloged. A white tint of care and caution surrounds the once ordinary living room. Investigators follow the obvious first threads. Phone records are seized. Computers are imaged. CCTV cameras within a half-mile radius are subpoenaed. Bank and credit card activity is requested. B-roll, evidence board analysts begin the slow work of mapping people to places and times. Pings on cell towers, call logs, short messages, metadata that will later stitch a timeline together. Forensic teams send blood work, toxicology, and trace samples to separate labs. Results are promised in days, sometimes weeks. Any preliminary medical note about substances is marked unconfirmed until the lab signs off. Interviews start almost immediately. Neighbors speak in fragments, what they heard, what they didn't. Friends and coworkers are called in to build a picture of Stacy's last weeks, routines, tensions, bills, and the small arguments that look different under scrutiny. Robert, her husband, gives his account several times over the first day, each retelling recorded and time-stamped. Detectives listen for consistency, for gaps, for emotion. They note both the things he remembers and the things he omits. Interview clip. Detective asking from those interviews a list of people of interest grows, not suspects, at least not yet, but individuals connected to Stacy whose whereabouts or actions matter. Neutral, factual mini-bios are filed. Robert Feldman, mid-40s, discovered the body and lives at the address. Kelly Ortiz, next-door neighbor, who reports hearing raised voices 2 weeks earlier, unconfirmed. Marcus Hale, a co-worker who had a public disagreement with Stacy over a fundraising event. Each entry notes relationships, occupations, and the specific reason investigators want to speak to them. When motives are floated, personal conflict, financial stress, a falling out, they are explicitly tagged as possible motive. When accounts contradict, they are cataloged as unresolved. Early leads split the case into many directions. Fool. A neighbor's doorbell camera records a delivery van pulling up close to the house roughly 30 minutes before Stacy is believed to have been discovered. At first glance, the footage seems to place an unknown vehicle at the scene. Reveal. Surveillance footage, press, and social media latch onto the clip. Theories multiply, but when the driver is located and produces delivery logs and a time-stamped GPS trail, that line of inquiry collapses. The van is a red herring. The red flag, what had seemed like an improbable break, now becomes a lesson in caution. Another promising thread arrives in the form of a cryptic text on Stacy's phone, an incomplete message to a friend that reads, "I can't." Interpreted quickly, it feels like evidence of intent. The clip is replayed on news segments, then re-examined by analysts who recover deleted drafts and discover the message was part of a longer conversation about a planned doctor's appointment. The apparent sign of despair becomes, again, a misread signal. Red flag. Anonymous tips flood the hotline. One caller insists an intruder was in the neighborhood. Another names a person who had once argued with Stacy at a TA meeting. Investigators pursue each tip because they must, but many dissolve under scrutiny. Alibis check out, timestamps don't line up, and some tips are traced back to residents with personal grudges. The noise is real. It slows the case and frays patience. Detectives are careful not to privilege rumor over evidence, but the public pressure grows. SFX. Newsroom chatter under the media glare, the department admits to a misstep, a detail leaked to reporters before family notification, inflaming speculation and complicating interviews. Public criticism follows. Detectives tighten their internal lines and vow to keep the investigation insulated from rumor. Still, the misstep leaves a bruised. Neighbors call back, lawyers circle, and attorneys for several people begin to assert privacy rights and push for briefer, more controlled interactions. Through the smoke of false starts, a few concrete leads survive. Phone tower data places an unregistered cellular device within 2 blocks of the Feldman home during the critical hour, an anomaly investigators cannot ignore. A forensic lab reports trace fibers from the living room that are not from Stacy's clothing, and a technician notes a faint, oily residue on the underside of a cushion. Both items go to specialized analysis. Unresolved, the turning point comes on a chilly October morning when a piece of evidence overlooked in the first days is reassessed. A doorbell camera from 2 houses over, initially recorded, archived, and then forgotten among terabytes of footage, shows a figure moving along the porch at 4:07 p.m. on the afternoon Stacy is last seen alive. The image is grainy. The figure's face is obscured. But the figure wears a jacket with a distinctive reflective strip, an uncommon feature. Reveal: surveillance footage detectives cross-reference that jacket with photos and social media. The same jacket appears in a photo on the social feed of someone in Stacy's immediate circle. At the same time, cell phone pings show that person's device near the neighborhood within minutes of the doorbell clip. Purchase histories add a final, small detail. A receipt places the same person near a hardware store where, according to investigators, tape and other household materials were purchased the week before. Each piece alone is circumstantial. Together, video, phone pings, and purchase records, they form a converging line of inquiry that can no longer be easily dismissed. SFX. Heartbeat investigators call in a focused set of interviews. They pull the person's alibi apart with care and focus. Forensics re-examine the fiber and residue evidence in light of the new lead. Lab requests are expedited. Every connection is tested, every assumption challenged. The case that once spread into many false alleys begins to narrow toward a single unsettling possibility. The person captured by the doorbell camera may be far closer to Stacy than anyone first imagined. But the discovery raises as many questions as it answers. Why was that person near the house at that hour? What exactly did they carry or remove? And how do the laboratory results match the circumstantial chain forming before the detective's eyes? Unresolved, the investigation tightens like a noose, and the next moves will determine whether this is the one true thread or another elaborate red herring waiting to unravel. The breakthrough arrives with sudden weight. Forensic reports return, linking fibers found on the cushion to clothing recovered from Robert Feldman's belongings. At the same time, digital evidence, the phone pings, the doorbell footage, the purchase history, forms a web too precise to ignore. Investigators move in. The arrest is made quietly early morning. A man in handcuffs steps into the chill air, escorted past flashing lights. Police radio chatter, neighbors stand in silence, watching as speculation transforms into certainty. The legal process begins slowly, with preliminary hearings that set the stage for what will be years of litigation. Defense attorneys argue that the evidence is circumstantial, that fibers could transfer innocently, that digital data can be misread. Prosecutors counter with a simple narrative. Stacy Feldman's death was no accident. They present a timeline stitched together by experts, minute by minute, call by call. Courtroom footage inside the courtroom, tension builds as witnesses take the stand. Friends recall Stacy's voice in the weeks before her death, the stress in her marriage. Neighbors recount fragments of sound, partial glimpses of arguments unconfirmed. Forensic experts explain the science behind the fibers, the toxicology, the digital trail left behind by phone towers. Screens glow with images as jurors watch the grainy doorbell footage, seeing for themselves the figure in the reflective jacket. The defense presses hard. Attorneys highlight inconsistencies in witness testimony, reminding jurors of memory's fragility. They argue that grief can color perception, that neighbors and friends may unconsciously exaggerate. They point to missing gaps, to uncertainties labeled unresolved, to every doubt they can raise. Their strategy is clear. If reasonable doubt remains, their client must walk free. The prosecution relies on accumulation, not one single piece, but the sum. The jacket, the fibers, the timeline of phone activity, the purchases before the death. A prosecutor's voice rings out. When you connect the dots, the picture is undeniable. Gavel. After weeks of testimony and closing arguments that leave the courtroom hushed, the jury retires. Hours stretch into days. Then at last, the verdict is read. Guilty. The words land heavy, final. Robert Feldman is sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. Appeals are filed in the years that follow, challenging the admissibility of certain evidence and alleging procedural errors, but those challenges fail. The conviction stands. For Stacy's family, the moment is both relief and raw grief. In interviews, her sister and friends speak through tears about the years stolen, the birthdays missed, the children left without their mother. Montage. Family photos, they describe the trial as re-traumatizing, yet necessary, a fight for truth, for recognition of what was taken. On the other side, the Feldman family is left fractured. Loved ones of the accused express shock, denial, or quiet withdrawal from the public eye. In court, some sobbed as the sentence was read, struggling with the duality of loving someone now defined by their crime. The wider community feels the weight as well. In Denver, conversations spread about the hidden realities inside seemingly ordinary homes. How can a marriage outwardly stable hold such turbulence beneath the surface? What warning signs go unseen until it's too late? This case leaves behind not only a legal precedent, but also a set of deeper questions. How do we reconcile the face people show the world with the private struggles they conceal? What responsibilities do friends, neighbors, and communities have to notice and intervene? The story of Stacy Feldman closes in the courtroom, but its echoes linger far beyond. A mother remembered, a family forever changed, and a community forced to confront uncomfortable truths. And perhaps the most haunting question remains: if darkness can take root in a home so ordinary, how many other stories lie hidden, waiting to be uncovered?